Kaustubha Das here with the big announcement for Wisdom of the Sages listeners. This August will be Ashram Month at the Super Soul Farm. Simple ashram living, rising early, morning kirtan, yoga and pranayama, healthy vegan and vegetarian meals, farm seva and being immersed in nature, and then gathering in the evenings for kirtan and readings. Plus, each week we'll have a lead presenter teaching a different facet of the philosophy and lifestyle of Bhakti-yoga. Week number 1 will be the exceptional Bhakti Lata teaching a course called The Beauty of Bhakti, bringing the culture of love and devotion into our lives. Week number 2 is my brother from another mother, Raghunath, teaching Falling in Love with Divinity, the Bhakti-yogi's method for opening the heart. And week number 3 is myself with a course called Following the Path, examining the history and teachings of Bhakti-yoga. You can come for 1, 2, or all 3 weeks, and the pricing is by donation. For more dates and information, go to wisdomofthesages.com/events. Peace. Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Tell a Friend Friday. Tell a friends when you have a personal responsibility to tell somebody about spiritual life, or invite them. How about that? Not tell them. Invite them into their spiritual life. Maybe send them a link to our podcast, an episode you really like. Maybe take a little snapshot of the podcast and tag a friend and post it, and we'll repost it, or, add some music. Tell a friend. Because this stuff works when you give it away. That's the mystery of love. That's the love pizza. The material pizza, you give a slice away, you got less pizza. Every slice that I give away, I got less pizza. With love, you give more love away, you get more love. What do you think about that, Kaustubha?
It's beautiful.
Senior educator.
Beautiful.
Senior educator. You are the senior educator. Educate me today, Kaustubha.
Well, you're the one holding the nugget, Raghunath.
Yes, but before the nugget, any interesting news for people?
We have a Bhakti recovery group meeting at 1 p.m. today. Tomorrow is our Q&A day, so you can email questions to wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. And then there'll be no show on Sunday.
No show on Sunday. Okay.
And Ashram Month is happening, but we're having some problem with the technical side of it. So if you haven't, a bunch of people registered, and anyway, to make a long story short, hold off on registration for 2 days. Everything's good. Those who paid, you're in there. Yes, anybody wants to, we'll get you in there. That's our Ashram Month.
But you can still go there and learn about it, read up on it, right?
You can go there and read up on it for sure. For sure.
Where'd they go?
wisdomofthesages.com and click on the Ashram Month tag. We're doing an ashram here. Ever want to live in an ashram? Well, here's your chance. You can go for a week. It sounds very romantic, doesn't it? Go for a week. I want to live in an ashram. I'm sick of life, sick of my job. You come for a week,
It's a nice
live in an
opportunity.
ashram. Come for 2. It's a nice opportunity.
Okay.
You don't have to give up everything unless you want to. We'll take it. Did you give up a lot of stuff?
I didn't have a lot to give up.
You didn't have much to give up. I gave up my entire record collection.
I mean, suppose I gave that up too. You know who I gave up my record collection to? Someone you know.
Who?
You know Gingy?
You're squirreling me this morning with Gingy. I do know Gingy. I like Gingy.
Yeah,
I do like
gave my record
Gingy.
collection. Gingy from, what was his band? Absolution.
Absolution, yeah. He was a good guy. Vivi wants to go, but she wants to know if there's a luxury deluxe 4 seasons ashram she can go to. Yeah, we'll get you covered there. Gonna give her a pup tent. She's gonna be.
Okay, Raghunath. Why don't we move on to the nugget now?
Okay, here's the nugget. Are you ready, my friend?
This will conclude our Ralph Waldo Emerson week.
All right. Who's next week?
I don't know.
Morrissey, Saint Morrissey.
Possible.
If we can get 5 good Morrissey quotes, we'll do Morrissey week next week. All right. The health. This is ready here. Emerson. The health of the eye seems to demand a horizon. We are never tired so long as we can see far enough.
What do you make of
Let
that?
me read that again.
Let's read it again.
The health of the eye seems to demand a horizon. We are never tired so long as we can see far enough.
Do you think he's being literal or metaphorical here?
Metaphorical.
Actually, that's what I thought too, and then I went and I researched it. I
Being
suppose
literal?
you could say the health of the eye. Really he's talking about, I think, the health of the mind here, But it was kind of more literal than I thought. You want me to read where it's coming from?
You got the cliff notes of this one? Yeah, I want to
not the
hear
cliff
this.
notes, but
Truthfully,
I
I've read
found
it and I didn't really quite get it.
Well,
I was
I took it
Kaustubha
as-
does go to Oxford. He probably has more insight on this stuff than me.
No, I really liked it from a metaphorical sense, and we'll get there. But this is from an essay that he wrote, and it's entitled "Nature," I believe. Yeah, Nature. Maybe it's a famous essay that he wrote. All right.
Yep.
And he's writing. He says the simple perception of natural forms is a delight, and when he says natural forms, I believe he means like forms in nature, right? Going out into the forest or whatever. So the simple perception of natural forms is a delight. The influence of the forms and actions in nature is so needful to man that in its lowest functions, it seems to lie on the confines of commodity and beauty. The body and mind, which have been cramped. Now, he was writing this back in 1830 something or something like that, right?
I know. Think about it. He must be like, oh, it's so congested here in Boston. I got to get to the countryside. You don't know what we're going through right now, Ralph Waldo Emerson. You don't know what a mall is.
Yeah.
Right? This is before
what
malls.
The internet is, what cubicles are, and neon, or what do they call that lighting that they have in all the, the fluorescent lighting and all this stuff. Yeah. So he writes, to the body and mind which have been cramped by noxious work and company.
He has no clue.
You got no clue.
It's only going to get worse.
Nature is medicinal and restores their tone. The tradesman, the attorney, comes out of the din and craft of the street and sees the sky and the woods and is a man again. In their eternal calm, he finds
me just butt
himself.
in. Yeah. Let me just butt in. Like the tradesman, I'm thinking like the blacksmith.
I suppose
the
trades also means
cheesemaker.
like any kind of business person is engaged in trade, right?
Yeah. I mean, those are like, we sort of like look up to those. Wouldn't it be great to have a little small mom and pop shop? Wouldn't it be great just to work with metal and wood, make a chair, make a cheese, make a hunk of cheese? That'd be great.
Hunk of cheese.
Yeah, I'm a cheese hunk maker. I mean, we think that we romanticize about that.
Yeah,
now.
like then I would have such peace of mind.
If he could, he's never seen a factory yet.
Or like just like working in some kind of like
Amazon warehouse.
Yeah.
Forgive me if you'll work in an Amazon warehouse.
Well, not even just a warehouse, right? Just like in the offices where it's just like, there's no life in there.
Everybody works in an office here. Apologize.
Well, it's not a problem. We sympathize too, It's tough. It wears people down. So anyway, he says the tradesman, the attorney, comes out of the din and craft of the street. And by craft, I assume he means like the architecture or something, like in other words, that it's been crafted by man or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
The tradesman, the attorney, comes out of the din and craft of the street and sees the sky in the woods and is a man again. In their eternal calm, he finds himself.
Mm-hmm.
Then he says, the health of the eye seems to demand a horizon. We are never tired so long as we can see far enough. So, in one sense, he's almost, when he says the health of the eye, I think he's talking about like mental health, right? Like, now everybody's talking about like self-care and everything like that. I think he's talking in that sense, right? Like, I need to remove myself from my daily circumstances, get more in touch with nature. When I can see a horizon, it actually restores me in some way, right? It's restorative. But and there's a lot that you could say about that, It's like we've talked about this before, but like when you go to the ocean, like particularly what I've seen in India, right? That it seems to me like in India, people have, like Indian people, they have a different purpose for going to the beach than we do.
Some puja.
Or they may do some, the rituals are done there for sure, but I think just even like commonly, they don't swim so much.
It's changing, I think.
It is changing a bit, but even still, like if you go to Indian beaches, it's mostly Western people that are there swimming.
Yeah, it's true.
But the Indian people more, they go to kind of feel nature, to feel the vastness of the ocean and the horizon, and maybe just like roll up their pant legs a little or pull up their sari a little and kind of like walk,
Right. Anyone who's Indian listening on Zoom, write on the board what you do at the traditionally Indian, not what you do, because it's 2022. You might do the same thing everybody in the West does. But if you've got some insight into what Indians do on the beach, please let us know, because we're just speculating here. But yeah,
I'm not speculating. I've been to Indian beaches. I've watched this, I've seen this. Yeah.
Well, maybe they're just rolling their pants because they just don't know how to swim.
No, it's not rolling up the pants that I'm talking about. I'm just saying that they're going there for a different experience, right? They're going there to kind of experience nature, to experience, to feel something of the vastness of the ocean, rather than to wear my bikini or look at people wearing bikinis or, surf or whatever,
Yeah.
It's not so much for enjoyment. We think of beach, we think enjoyment, right? We're going to go out there. We're going to bring the beer. We're going to bring some food. We're going to party. We're going to try to pick someone
cooler.
up. Yeah, be cool. Yeah. They have a different reason. And so I think, this is getting to that. But also when I looked at this, to me, this was really about zooming out. And when I see this more metaphorically, think about this, Raghunath, okay? That the health of the eye seems to demand a horizon. We're never tired so long as we can see far enough. And so metaphorically, how far we can see, right? We become tired. We become worn down by our circumstances.
Oh, okay. Now I'm starting to see some light on this.
Okay.
The health of the eye seems to demand a horizon. We are never tired so long as we can see far enough.
Yeah. My daily circumstances seem overwhelming to me, right? We experience depression. We experience anxiety. We experience fear. And those powerful mental states, they begin to make so much of our life toxic, so much of our relationships toxic,
Yeah.
And we struggle.
Rachel did that yesterday. We were all up in our stuff, getting so much stuff done. And then she's like, I'm going for a hike. I was like, good for her. Good for her. She just went for a hike.
Well, that's getting back to
I
the
disappeared.
first
I
thing.
went for a japa walk, a beautiful japa walk. And it was a good for me moment when I didn't really have time to. And we just,
No, I'm all for that. But to me, that's getting back to the first, more literal interpretation of it. And I'm going over to the metaphorical kind of understanding of it, that when we can see far enough, we never become tired, or you could say overwhelmed, right? When we think of ourselves not as merely, freed from this temporary sense of identity of who I am in this particular circumstance, and begin to think of ourselves as an eternal being that's passing through, just a blip.
Okay.
Right. Seeing far in that sense.
Okay.
Then that restores us.
Okay.
Right. That has a restorative effect.
Okay. I've got some, I'm going to chew on this one because I've got some feedback. No, not yet. I have to be with it.
Oh, I
Be
see.
with-
Okay.
To be with it more.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, that's Ralph Waldo week.
Emerson. Anyway, it was a good week. He's good.
Yeah. I hear they called him Waldo.
Ryan,
Like if you knew him as a friend, he was just Waldo.
Ralph Waldo. I never thought of
They didn't
that.
call him Ralph. They just called him
No.
Waldo.
Ralph.
No,
Oh,
that's what I
Ralphie.
said. No, the
Ryan,
commonly he was called. Why are you? Why are you resisting that? They called him Waldo. Like his friends just called him Waldo.
Oh, I thought you were just joking.
No.
I
All right.
called him his middle name.
It's like that sometimes.
Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan. Unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya Bhagavati Utamashloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki, by regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering service to the pure devotee. All that is troublesome in the heart will become eradicated, and loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my teachers are opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Mar Delago.
Canto 4, Chapter 20, Text 17.
Lord Vishnu is
So-
in the sacrificial arena. Mara's
Yeah.
preaching.
In text 16, King Prithu was offered any boon that he wanted. Right?
Yeah.
And so we see that this happens a lot, and we were talking about it yesterday, but Krishna, although he's omniscient, he seems to test the devotees. And, kind of like as an opportunity to show the purity of their hearts, right? Here's the test. I'll give you any boon you want. He already knows his mind, right? He knows the purity of his mind, the purity of his heart. But it's, again and again, it's kind of an opportunity to show us this is what an elevated being's desires are like, right? This is what their interests are. By seeing it repeatedly, it gives us the opportunity to understand the kind of heart that we're meant to try to cultivate. You are really absent today, right?
No. I'm deeply thinking about your nugget, believe it or not. I know I look absent. I look absent. I do this a lot. I start thinking about things, and my son will come up to me and goes, "Where are you?" And then I joke that I'm in Goloka or in Goloka Vrindavan, and I'm garlanding Radharani. I was like, "Oh, I was just garlanding somebody. No big deal." I was thinking about your nugget. I was thinking about, everyone's trying to file. Here's my squirrel, back to your original thing.
Okay.
People trying to figure out what's the origin of the shooter, like what's his issue, and we have and every political side is giving their opinion. Well, it's a gun issue. No, it's a systemic racism issue. But anyway. Mental health. Everyone's got but there's a deep issue. There's a deeper issue I'm feeling, and I feel like it's just like a total disconnection. And what you were saying of not having that broad horizon of who I am in this bigger picture of life. And I'm looking at the politics of the day and the hope and the lack of hope people feel just because these media companies just want their ratings to get higher. And as soon as you lock into it, you feel distress. You feel, I slipped into news yesterday. I tripped down the news into the news glue trap. It's so depressing. And what are kids supposed to be? If they're looking what's right in front of their face. And there's a mental health issue. And a part of it is because we're not presenting any type of hope or self-identity. There's just like this short-term identity of who we are, short-term idea of how to be happy in this world. And there's no big broad view of a horizon of that we are actually tiny. We're something bigger. We're all connected. We're not connected by race or gender preference. We're connected because we're spirit souls. and each person has some deep, sweet goodness within inside them, and it's just been neglected, and we're left to just choose sides and find an enemy. And of course, people are depressed. Of course, there's mental health issues. It's an underlying disease that the Bhagavatam can actually cure. That's what I think. I wasn't spaced out, sir. I was deeply, deeply lost in your initial nugget. I just carried it into the Bhagavatam.
Okay, you're just moving a little bit slower today. That's fine.
Yes, I'm moving slow. You know what? Sometimes you got to enjoy the journey. The journey it's the journey. There's nowhere to go.
No, I agree with what you're saying. And, actually, if you look at this, at what Emerson is saying, again, when he says, like, he's talking about how minds are being cramped by noxious work and company in 1830 or whatever like that. Right. So I get what you're saying. In other words, now he couldn't even imagine the absurdity of the world that we live in. And because we live in it, it's sometimes hard for us to see how absurd it is.
And what hope does a teenager have? Like, if you're not the top of your class, if you're not going to get picked out of high school, or a scholarship, or you don't have the resources, what hope do you have to just survive?
Even if you do, if you have the resources,
even if you have the resources, like,
you're looking at your parents and they had the resources, but look, are they happy? Or is there any meaning to life? Is there any purpose to it?
Sure.
They're miserable. They're angry with each other. They've got nothing meaningful to live for, it appears. So yeah, I think it goes beyond whether one has financial resources. Even if you're materially successful, there's no joy in it. So he's saying there's noxious work, noxious company. This was before television. This is before reality television. This is before the internet.
Jerry Springer. It's noxious.
This is before all the body issues that people have nowadays. Based on the combination of the media. Throw on top of that all the horrible food that we eat.
It's almost like between like big pharma and big ag and technology, we are like on a Kali Yuga accelerator. Now's the time to take shelter of the Bhagavatam, my friend. And now is the time.
And you look at all these things, like, for instance, there's so many and they pile up, right? In Emerson's time, where did you work? Right? You're right near your home somewhere, right? I mean, at the most, you got on a horse and went like just a little bit, like a few minutes down.
It's a little far. I'm going to take the horse today.
Yeah, even that is like you're connected to the horse and you're connected
to nature. You pet the horse. You might want to feed him, stroke his nose.
Yeah, but you're not.
It grounds you.
You're not driving an hour and a half through traffic, right?
Like commuting
with polluting the earth, a sense of anger and frustration, increasing in you on a daily basis on your way to work, on your way home from work, as you're sitting in the traffic, and then listening to also pumping into some kind of audio garbage into your mind because you're just like so numbed out, you're just trying to kill the time.
Not wisdom of the sages. That's good.
that's a good one.
That's good audio stuff.
But that's just one feature, right? Instead of working near my home, family's broken. It's just one thing. The quality of our education, the quality of our entertainment, the quality of our food, the quality of our homes, the quality of our architecture. It just goes on and on. So yeah, people are freaking out. That's what's happening. People are cracking.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. It's not just I'm not saying that we shouldn't do all kind of practical things to try to prevent such tragedies. We should.
Yeah.
But if you don't get to the underlying thing, it's like you're just trying to like stick your finger in the dike or something like that. It's just like you need a more thorough analysis of the whole thing. You need a more thorough solution, and that has to do with where our minds are at.
It's like a Kali Yuga tsunami. Now I feel bad. Anyway.
Well, Raghunath.
Well, you know what? I did go through this, going through this entire divorce thing. It's just sort of like, how much like more chaos can I lay on my children? It's like unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like that's the last thing the kids need right now.
Well,
on top of like the fall of the Western culture, like the decline of Western culture.
Well,
They
you
need
see,
their parents.
well, and then we go back to this statement: the health of the eye seems to demand a horizon, right?
Yeah.
We're never tired so long as we can see far enough. So we need that deeper understanding. It's something that you share with your kids. It's something that you have yourself. That I'm not this body. That this is again, the combination of we shouldn't be so removed that we don't care about this world and we're not ready to act in such a way to improve it. But at the same time, we have to really be in touch with that eternal reality, And if we are, it'll really inform how we move through this world and act in this world better too. So we embrace both ends, Now, in one sense, there's nothing but optimism. There's nothing but bright skies when you're seeing from that spiritual perspective, And you come back to this world with a sense of, rather than with a sense of despair, you operate in this world with a sense of healthy compassion, But all along, your own heart is bright, because you realize that eternal identity, that eternal reality.
I'm sad. Let's
Well,
continue. Let's continue. All right. Text 20. Right, Mara? Text 20?
17.
No, 17.
17. The great Saint Maitreya continued, My dear Vidura, in this way Maharaj Prithu, the conqueror of the entire world, accepted the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead on his head. As King Indra was standing by, he became ashamed of his own activities, and he fell down before King Prithu to touch his lotus feet. But
Okay.
Prithu Maharaj immediately embraced him in great ecstasy and gave up all envy against him for his having stolen the horse meant for the sacrifice.
Okay. Here we go, right? Two people. One was apparently the aggressor. One was apparently the victim, right? Indra was the person that had committed the wrong. Prithu was the person who had been wronged, right? They're both standing in the presence of Lord Vishnu. And Indra, although he's such a famous person, although he has such a massive reputation,
Universal celebrity.
he's a universal celebrity. He approaches with complete humility. He bows down, right? He begs forgiveness. Prithu, not only does he forgive him, right? I mean, that alone is impressive. He could have said, "Now get out of here," like,
Yeah, how dare you? Yeah.
don't show
I
your
forgive
face
you,
around
but-
here anymore. Right? He could have come across with that. But it says that he not only forgave him, he embraced him. And then it said, Vidvesham, what is it? My eyes are not. Visasarja. He gave up all envy. And here, envy, again, I believe this word is being used more like a kind of like an older sense of the word. I looked it up. You ready?
Yeah, what is the older sense
Well,
of it?
the first definition is a feeling of discontented or resentful longing aroused by someone else's possessions, qualities, or luck. Right? So that's the way we generally use the word envy. Like someone's got something that I want, and I feel a sense of resent. Then I looked. It said origin, Middle English. Also in the sense of hostility, enmity, from the old French envie. All right. So in other words, it has more to do with feeling some sense of hostility towards someone. What we would call, like, I guess, hostility or enmity. All right.
Okay.
So he not only said, okay, you're off the hook. I'm not going to punish you. You're forgiven. But within his heart, he actually gave up all feelings of animosity towards Indra.
This is the forgiveness lesson.
Yeah.
As devotees, we'll get into some stuff, and you just got to let things go. You got to forgive.
Right down
Gotta
to the
ask.
heart level.
Ask. Yeah, you gotta ask for forgiveness, and then you gotta forgive, and then you gotta let it go immediately and completely.
Now,
Prithu did.
Let's hear the commentary, Raghunath.
18 or 17? What did I do?
We're on 18. Yeah.
18. All right, this is good. Text 18, commentary. There are many cases in which a person becomes an offender to the lotus feet of a Vaishnava and later becomes repentant. Here also we find that although the king of heaven, Indra, was so powerful that he accompanied Lord Vishnu, he was so powerful that he accompanied Lord Vishnu, he felt himself a great offender for stealing Prithu Maharaj's horse that was meant for sacrifice. An offender at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava is never excused by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's a big statement.
Mm-hmm.
The personality of Godhead does not forgive an offender. There are many instances illustrating this fact. Ambarish Maharaj was offended by Durvas Muni, a great sage of mystic yoga, and great sage of mystic yogi. And Durvas also had to fall down at the feet of Ambarish Maharaj. You know, that's what we do. I offend you sometimes. I bow down. Please forgive me. Accept my obeisances.
I do the same.
He does. You do the same. Don't let everybody out there. You should understand. Me and Kaustubha, as buddy as we are, we get into. We buck horns. We buck horns off camera. Forget it. We're like wrestling, and then
here he goes again. Here he goes
again. While we're wrestling, we start laughing. We start laughing and just giggling and rolling down hills.
Where does your mind go?
No, we apologize. We always get into it and we always apologize and we always accept, and then we just go on as if nothing happened. And I think that's part of making probably the same in the material world.
Well, you know what, Raghunath? And I'm going to tell you, I think why we're able to do that is going to come out in the second paragraph of this commentary. Stop giggling.
Start laughing.
You're back in your Zoolander gas fight mode.
There are many. Okay. Indra decided to fall down at the lotus feet of King Prithu, but the king was so magnanimous, a Vaishnav, that he did not want Maharaj Indra to fall down at his feet. Instead, King Prithu immediately picked him up and embraced him, and both of them forgot all the past incidents.
So in other words, Prithu's heart is like, some people would have got off and saying, okay, you see, I won. Now you're down. I'm up. I'm going to relish this moment. But Prithu's heart was such that it's like, no, I don't even want to, I don't want that kind of relationship, right? Where I'm superior. He pulled him right back up. Right?
Yeah. Both King Indra and Maharaj Prithu was envious and angry with each other. But since both of them were Vaishnavas or servants of Lord Vishnu, it was their duty to adjust the cause of their envy.
Boom. Let's look at that. Right. Okay.
That's it. This is Vaishnav psychic surgery right here, Kaustubha. Tell me.
Well, just, it says both King Indra and Maharaj Prithu were envious. Again, they had animosity towards each other and angry with each other. Okay. But since both of them were Vaishnavas, right? In other words, we're both leaves on the same tree connected to the same root, right?
Yeah.
We both there's no point when I fight you, I'm actually harming me. It's right. It's like we're all part of this one connected to this divine root. So since both of them were Vaishnavas or servants of Vishnu, it was their duty to adjust the cause of their, let's say, animosity.
Oh boy.
Right. So again, they took it beyond the superficial level. Like, Indra, you have to apologize. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, Prithu, you have to accept his apology. Okay, I accept your apology. Okay, everyone go back to work now. It was more than that, right? It was and this is the way a Vaishnava is. This is the heart of the practice, right? In other words, it's really about how my heart becomes situated. Where's my heart? The purity of my heart, the purity of my mind, the purity of my intentions. I need to, here he says, adjust the cause. Right?
Wi-Fi's off.
I'm sorry. What do you say? What are you mumbling about over here?
No, you're getting a little choppy, so I'm asking Rachel in a very secretive way. Are the Wi-Fi's off? Can you turn off the Wi-Fi?
I thought you were saying, can you get my beard brush? Because you tried to do that before the show. But again, it's saying adjust the cause of their envy. We have a duty to kind of adjust, not just our behavior, but it's really aligning the heart, right? Like I need to realign my heart. I want my heart. I want it. In other words, Prithu's thinking, I want to see Indra the same way that Vishnu sees him, because then when I'm seeing him the same way that Vishnu sees him, my heart is aligned with Vishnu, right?
You know what? It's true. This is good. This is good Vaishnav tricks of peace of mind. Now, here's a question from our message board from Lisa Tuttle from Maine. She said, "What is guidance?" Wait, give me some guidance when others.
Okay, I thought that was going to be like a really abstract question.
What is guidance? What is guidance? No, I think she meant to say, "Give me some guidance when others keep their bad behavior." How to forgive one-sided, right? So, okay, I forgive, but they keep on their nonsense. They're in Vaishnavs, we get it. If I offend Mara, she'll say, or if I offend Mara, and I don't know, we an apology, a forgiveness thing. We bow down, we offer obeisances, we clear the slate, we shake up the etch-a-sketch, we move forward. But what happens when someone is acting in a horrible way? And you get offended and you forgive them? How does that work with the person who's not playing by the rules that we're trying to play by, Kaustubha?
Well, that is still, in one sense, a very broad question, because...
Give me some senior education!
Okay. We, of course, with these kind of questions, you always have to kind of have a little preamble, right?
Yeah.
That deals with abuse or situations like that. And we're not saying that someone should tolerate being abused in any way. It may be that if a person is behaving in a way that's wrong in relation to you, that it is something that not only the heart needs to be adjusted, but the actual association needs to be adjusted, or the circumstance needs to be adjusted, right? Maybe it's in the workplace, and maybe that the way that you're treated there is unfair. Maybe the people just can't come to the realization that the way that they're treating you is unfair. And maybe it's something that can be tolerated, or maybe it's something that needs to be adjusted. Maybe you need to work somewhere else. Maybe you need to take it to a higher level. So externally, I can't give one answer that's going to satisfy like all the different circumstances. But that being said, it may be in certain circumstances where you're dealing with someone that just cannot understand, right? So let's say we have a conviction about how their behavior is wrong, and we feel a sense of certainty about it, right? Maybe we've even consulted with others that we trust who are more removed from the circumstance, so they can bring a non-biased perspective to it, and they've confirmed, that this is wrong, but the way this person is behaving is wrong. Still, it may be that one can forgive, right? Still, it may be like, okay, it's wrong, but it's tolerable, and it's something that I will bear, right? It's something that I'll bear, and I'll bear it without resentment. I'll recognize, and we were talking about this, was it in the previous chapter where we're saying it's like everyone's almost like intoxicated or something like that, right? But due to the influence of the modes in nature.
Oh, yeah.
So I get it that this person, just like I practically, even, at this time in my life, am influenced by the modes of material nature and are likely misunderstanding certain things. And certainly my past I have, and certainly my past lifetimes I've had. There's no need for me to bear any resentment towards this individual. I can have a problem with their behavior, and I may or may not be able to act in such a way that adjusts. But deep within, I don't need to bear even a drop of resentment. What do you think?
I think, yes. First of all, sometimes I don't even have clear perspective. Like I could be angry at a parent and not really even fully understand a parent's motives or a person's motives who's harmed me, because I'm not in their being. And therefore, with any mental filter I have, I can just put in other meanings why they would do such a thing to me. Sometimes, especially with parents, you don't even sometimes realize it until you become a parent. And then you're like, oh, I get it. That's why you were like that. That's why you did that. That's why you. So sometimes I'm not seeing a whole picture anyway. So when I want to condemn, it's really taken a toll on my consciousness much more. And I may not even be right on. I may be way off. But there are these times, you're mentioning, where there is some serious trauma going on, and the person that person may have to go to jail, go to prison. You may not have to enter a relationship with that person ever again, but that doesn't indemnify me from forgiveness. Even if a person was criminal, in my heart, I have to just not be like, oh, I can't condemn, because it's going to create anger within me. Not just that. We mentioned this the other day. I have to see so much bigger. The big zoom out with forgiveness is there is a benevolent God in control, and there's a greater plan for me. Mm-hmm. And everything is supposed to bring me to a higher place right now in my life. Whatever happened is the past. How can I move forward in a safe way, right? And in a way that I'm going to feel like, and how can I take even that baggage of the past and use it, maybe perhaps to help people that have been going through so much that I went through. And you're never going to be able to make that past go away, but you can manage the past so that you can make better choices in the future. Because sometimes our trauma or our pain like perpetuates me making bad choices today. So how can I take that pain and manage it, and pain management, trauma management, and make better choices to set a good example for someone who else maybe doesn't have the foresight to do that. And that's also how we apply our spiritual life. Did that make any sense whatsoever?
It made a lot of sense, Raghunath. And it reminded me, there's this kind of famous little story, someone wrote it up and it's been passed around a lot. I don't know the origin of it. But where someone, it may have been on a subway or something like that. And there's a parent there, and they have like 3 kids or something, and the kids are just
7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Is that where that's
Let's
from?
do a Stephen Covey quotes next week.
Okay, we can do that.
All my material comes from that book. I'm going to have no material. When you read that book, you're like, Raghunath is a complete farce. It all came from this book.
Well, tell the story then. You know the story.
Oh, it's a good story. So he's on the subway, sort of looking towards the ground. He's got 3 kids. They're running around in the subway, and they're really disturbing everybody. And there's a guy sitting next to that guy. He's like, "Excuse me, sir, your kids are really out of control."
Maybe resenting the parent, right? Like, what?
Yeah, resenting the parents. Like, why would you bring your kids on the subway and just let them cause disturbance to everybody who's sitting quietly on the train?
Clearly irresponsible, right? Clearly
one of those irresponsible parents, you know.
Yeah.
And then the father just sort of nodded. He didn't correct the children. The children were still completely misbehaving. And then the man spoke up again. "Excuse me, sir, your kids are disturbing everyone. Can you say something?" And the guy again just grunted. And then he said, "I'm sorry, sir. It is unfair to everybody on this train that you won't take control of your kids, and we all have to suffer because of it. And I don't know what you are thinking."
Totally justified.
Totally justified in his right. Yeah. He's got a paradigm that he's seeing, and he's just sharing it. And all of a sudden, the father looks up and he goes, "Oh, yeah, I really don't know what I'm thinking right now. We just came back from the hospital, and their mother died. And I don't think they really know how to react to that. And truthfully,
I don't either. Yeah.
Neither do I." And that was the paradigm shift.
Right.
So we don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
You know. Sorry, could you say that again? Sorry.
We don't know what's going on.
Shut up.
More of the toxic, whatever, cramped, bizarre world we're living in, right? Or watch is like
my phone is shaming me on a regular basis.
So the point being is that from one perspective, you can look at this parent and say they're totally irresponsible, they're totally wrong, they're totally incompetent, they're totally inconsiderate, and it makes perfect sense. But when you hear more, when you get behind the scenes and really understand where this person's coming from and what they're going through, then it makes complete sense in another way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's called zooming out in one sense, like by sharing that, the person had a broader perspective of what the person's going through. So bringing that to Lisa's question, I'm not saying it necessarily applies, but maybe it applies to some degree, right? That whatever this person is going through, whatever this person has been through that has shaped their mind, warped their mind, formed their mind in a particular way to the point where they can't see clearly just how problematic their own behavior is. And even if you mention it, it doesn't sink in or it doesn't get through. maybe even if you can't change it, maybe you can still see underneath it all. I don't have to bear any animosity towards the person. And maybe, just maybe, right, by responding without any kind of animosity, you could actually change it. I like that story that you tell, Raghunath, about like your neighbor who was like so unreasonable and mean to you. Remember that one?
No.
You had some neighbor that was.
Oh,
I think
yeah,
it's
yeah,
the
yeah.
one that painted on your dog.
He spray painted Gus.
Painted Gus.
Yeah.
He painted Gus.
What a terrible thing! Just because Gus is running on her property or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, painted Gus.
But there was something else about it where like that person was going on about you about like your farming techniques or something like that, or right?
You and your farming techniques, your
You
low
don't know what
class.
you're doing over there. Was it something like that?
Yeah. Yes.
And then your response was?
I can't remember. Did I
That-
say something spiritual?
Well, the impression I got was that this person was just constantly mean and ornery and nasty and just nothing but negative energy.
Instead of I did some like Wing Chun. I went with the flow of water. I sort of said, yeah, I'm really new to this. I'd appreciate your wisdom. I
need
don't
help
know.
from someone like you.
Help,
Yeah.
And then
that help?
it completely disarmed the person. They're like, oh, okay. But
In order to do that, right? In order to do that, you have to be somewhere. You have to be zoomed out. You have to, you have to be able to set aside the rationalization to snap back and the urge to snap back. That's what we're trying to cultivate, right? Like that broader. Imagine how empowered we become if that broader perspective, if that zoomed out perspective, if that view of the horizon is there, where we're not identifying with our body, we're not identifying with our ego. We're seeing underneath all the different temporary circumstances. We're sympathizing with people, even when their behavior is problematic. We're recognizing the spiritual purity of every living being, even though it may not be manifesting through their actions. And from that platform, you can actually say, oh, you're right. I really need help from someone like you.
Yeah.
And then there's so I can't say that I've developed it very deeply, but I can say this, that if a person develops that ability, that vision, and with it, the tolerance and the sympathy and the compassion, now you really become an instrument, powerful instrument of divinity in this world, right? And without that, to some degree you can, but when you really get that, you become really powerful, or you can change hundreds, thousands of lives.
When you know the person's backstory too, and you try to understand them a little bit too, it sort of loosens up that noose of hate you have for the aggressor or the offender.
Or a noose of hate.
It's the new. We're new.
Or a noose of hate from Springfield, Massachusetts.
We're noose of hate from Salem. But there is like a noose of hate I have when someone offends me initially. And so to understand their backstory, and maybe it's the big backstory of what they got, it doesn't mean I won't feel the pain of the trauma. It just means the understanding of their backstory loosens up the noose of hate. It helps us
Loosen
forgive.
the noose of hate. And to develop this, I think like hearing this, someone say, that sounds great and everything, but come on. I mean, like I even try. It's just like it takes years. Like it's an effort. Like it's a combined strategy. Our sadhana, right? Our daily spiritual practices, our readings and our contemplations, our regular hearing of this kind of wisdom, the people that we associate with, on a daily basis, and also just like that, even, like even things like the festivals that we celebrate. And so it's all of this, this entire Bhakti culture, the wisdom of Bhakti, the beauty in the culture and in the ritual, in the Sangha, in the philosophy, in the contemplation, it's all working to kind of help, make this shift, to where we become a sadhu, tolerant, merciful, kind, wise, peaceful, forgiving. Yeah, like all these things. Don't expect it's going to happen just because, hey, that sounds good and I want that. I'm going to try. Oh, it didn't work.
Right. I read this Instagram thing about forgiving. You got to actually shift the consciousness on a regular basis.
And think of it not just as like, oh, if I get there, I'll feel better. How quick can it happen?
Right.
Think of it more like this is a lifetime mission for me. And as it gradually begins to unfold, it's going to start to snowball. Like because the peace of mind that I get from it grants me the ability to meditate more deeply, to focus my mind on spiritual contemplation more deeply. And that deeper spiritual contemplation helps me act that way more. And my acting that way, again, it helps deepen my contemplation. And so the meditation that I want to do now, which seems so far from my ability to do effectively, by 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, by the time you start to get old, hopefully you're starting to really connect with that. So it's something that you say, I'm going to stick with this. That's what I want to be. I know people that are like that. I want to be like them. That's my mission. I'm not so concerned about other things, right? Like I'm not so concerned whether it's sunny or cloudy today. I'm not so concerned about whether my job is entirely satisfying or whether it's kind of a bit of a drudgery, because I have a bigger mission in life, and I'm going to work at this,
Stu, can I just throw in a last little interesting point I was thinking about?
Please do.
To do all these things without God, without a higher power, you can get close to it. But it's really, these are monumental things that we have to do. These are Mount Everest we have to climb, this type of forgiveness and type of compassion. And we can do it in a secularized way. But it's really getting the mercy of God also in there to assist us on this. So to cut out God, I'm just going to be a good person and I'm just going to be a compassionate person. It can be there to some degree, but it's that God factor in there. That's actually the thread that's tying all these. It's the surrender to Krishna ultimately that's making all these things naturally manifest. It's part of a bigger machine of our reconnecting with the divine.
Well, that goes right to that sentence that we just read. Both King Indra and Maharaj Prithu were envious and angry with each other, but since both of them were Vaishnavas, or servants of Lord Vishnu, it was their duty to adjust the cause of their envy.
Well, yeah.
He says this is a first-class example of cooperative behavior between Vaishnavas. In the present day, however, because people are not Vaishnavas, they fight perpetually among one another and are vanquished without finishing the mission of human life.
Dying angry.
Let's not die without finishing that mission, right? Yeah. Let's not die without
Hashtag finish the mission, Mara. Hashtag finish the mission. That's the one. That's the shirt today.
How should I finish the mission? Okay.
Alrighty. Mara, takeaways. It's 7:00.
Yeah. Give away love and you'll get more back.
Yeah. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We need horizons to overcome our overwhelm.
We need horizons.
Bhagavatam can cure our hopelessness.
There you
It
go.
really can.
That's a
It
shirt.
really can. That is a t-shirt.
Forgive immediately and completely.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't wear that t-shirt, by the way.
But like, it sounds like you're asking someone to forgive you immediately and completely.
Forgive me immediately and
Forgive me for
completely.
what I'm about to do. We have a duty to realign our heart.
That's right.
Yeah. You gotta do that.
No one is indemnified from forgiveness.
Indemnified.
Raghu's favorite word these days.
Indemnify.
Use your
We're
baggage.
indemnify.
Use your
Point
baggage.
Pleasant.
Use your baggage of the past to help others.
Use your
Use
baggage, of the past to help others.
In other words, like, because I've gone through stuff, I can understand they're going through.
Oh,
stuff.
yeah. Yes, okay.
Loosen the noose of hate.
There you go.
Listen the news.
You got a better one than that.
Forgive those who paint your dog.
Forgive those that paint your dog
That was
quickly
mine.
and completely.
That was mine.
Finish the mission
Finish the mission.
Finish the mission.
and make a chunk of cheese.
Make a chunk of cheese. Make a chunk of cheese.
You
See
feeling
the
better
big-
now, Raghu? A little bit?
Yeah. If I make a vegan cheese, make a chunk of vegan cheese.
Just thinking about cheese perked you up.
A big chunk.
We're talking about mouse traps yesterday. And we're talking about big chunks of cheese today.
Mice really do like cheese, by the way.
Do they?
But I think they like peanut butter better.
Peanut butter, I've heard, yeah.
Yeah.
Why? How do you know that? Have you been setting mouse traps? Or
I
is
have
it
been.
himsa?
I have been setting
himsa
mouse traps, but they have a heart mouse traps.
That's
They
right.
go into a box.
Never
and they
works, though,
find
does it?
And they nibble, and then I got to drive them down the road and let them all out.
Has it ever worked for you?
Yeah.
Really?
Caught 7 mice in one box.
No kidding.
Yeah.
A lot of mice.
It's a lot of mice.
Okay.